why I chose this session was a lot of people whom I'm known to, whom I'm connected to, asked me for advice, asked many other people for advice on how do we kind of make a very, very realistic session out of a career roadmap. Of course, we learned about personal branding the last time, and this is about a logical extension in the professional world when you talk about a career roadmap. So, without further ado, let's start, guys. I'll divide the session into three parts today. Section 1, 2, 3. The first section is where I'll take you through the entire ideal career roadmap. Of course, this one is about the path, the process that you can follow in achieving your career roadmap. The other two sections will be slightly mini sections where I'll talk to you about the rules to follow while joining an organization, the rules to follow while quitting an organization, and the kind of managers that you should look up to and the kind of managers that you should follow in your current organization. The third section, which is the last 15-20 minutes, will talk to you about some of the famous theories in this field. And each of these theories kind of have been very, very well known across the world and phenomenal. So some of those famous theories are also something that I'll cover. Great. So I'll start with a few did you knows. Did you know that 75% of people hide some part of their professional identity? Now, when I say professional identity, I mean feelings, fears, insecurities, professional identity. I've known many people in my professional life who don't tell the complete truth in their CV or lie. When I ask many people about their professional life, they would just talk about some basic facts without getting into the story, which is about hiding feelings and fears. Did you know that in a single day, we get 70,000 thoughts? 98% of those thoughts are repeat offenders. Those are thoughts that are coming back to us again and again. And the most prevalent thought in those 98% thoughts are, I believe I'm not good enough. Did you also know only 13% people feel fully engaged at work? Just 13%. There is 87% people who are not fully engaged, who are dissatisfied with their current profession. Also, people who are professionally stressed don't know that they're professionally stressed or depressed till one of these two things happen. Either they go to a professional help, which is a psychologist or a professional help, a medical help, or they stop being depressed. So when they stop being depressed, they feel, oh God, I was depressed till now, I didn't even know. Also, if you have read any famous autobiography, none of them says, I just did what everyone else did and wow, here I am. So the point is, you will have to do something different. You will have to do something else. A path that is not taken by the majority. If you do what everyone else does, you're going to get what everyone else gets. And that is not something that I would wish for you. I would ideally want a lot more than that for you. And that's why the session, guys, are spread across the three parts. Starting with what is a career roadmap? Of course, there are various definitions that you would find on the internet, various definitions across the entire past 100 to 200 years. This is a definition that I have found, which is simple, that you can remember. It is the compass that helps in achieving your professional vision. If you are going wrong, the compass should tell you, no, you are not in the right direction. And that is what a career roadmap normally does for you. It helps in achieving the vision that you have for yourself, the vision that you're trying to build for yourself. So when you close your eyes and imagine, where do I want to see myself when I'm retiring at the end of my career? You must be able to see something. And that compass will help you in the right direction towards that vision. I will take you through 6 basic steps in designing the career roadmap now. Very simple, basic steps. And at the end of this first section on what is an ideal career roadmap, I'll encourage some questions that you can keep typing during this first half an hour. First step in the career roadmap is, what do you do? Now, many people ask this question to us in our office daily. They ask this question to us in parties, in social gatherings, in when you meet relatives, even when you go for an interview. What do you do? So the first step is to very clearly know where you are right now as it relates to your current position. What's your qualification? What are the skills you think you really have? What is your job designation right now? What is the job that you have right now? Now, if you have been able to answer this question in your mind, take about 10, 15, 20 seconds maybe. The point here is two parts. What do you feel when you answer this question? Do you feel happy? Do you feel neutral? Do you feel a little sad? Do you feel elated? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel theek hai? First point. What are you feeling when you're saying this? What do you do? Second is, what is your judgment? What are others feeling with your answer? Remember, I'm telling here what is your judgment? What are others feeling with your answer? Are they feeling, oh wow, he's doing this? Are they feeling, theek hai, he's just one of us? Are they feeling, oh no, he does this? Your judgment, what they are feeling is not important. It's important what you are thinking, what they're feeling, because you change your answers according to that. When you tell your relatives what you do, it might be a little different than when you tell your manager what you do. It might be a little different when you tell three levels below in the hierarchy what do you do. And might be a little different what you're telling to your mentor. So these two questions become important. First step, guys, what do you do? Knowing where you are, your current position, your feelings about your current position, and the feelings that others have about your current position. Simple first step. Second step is, who are you? Now, who are you dates back to my Ikigai session which I took you through personal branding. Even those of you who didn't attend, it's a simple one. What do I love? What am I good at? क्या अच्छा लगता है मुझे, किस चीज को मुझे बहुत पसंद है करने के, एंड मैं किस चीज में अच्छा हूं. What do I love? What am I good at? What am I good at is very easy to find. If you have got appreciation in private and public from people whom you haven't asked it for, you're good at that. And what do I love is what you keep telling yourself. This is something I'm fantastic at. Who are you is important, because what do you do might be very different from who are you. Who are you are your core values, is the basis of who you are. In this, it becomes very important to focus on your strengths and ignore the weaknesses. I'm saying ignore because if you spend your entire life focusing on your weaknesses, what you might end up with at the end of your life is a very strong weakness, which is not something that we would want. Be aware, but when you are actually working out on your strength, just focus on your strength. Embrace your superpower. Make it the biggest, the strongest thing in your life, because that is what you're good at. But of course, your self-awareness is important, because that's what will tell you what you love and what are you good at. So the second step, guys, is who are you? Remember the first step, what do you do? Second step, who are you? Third step is, what is your inspiring cause? Now, of course, when you're trying to choose a career option and you have figured out this is something I'm good at. I'm good at dance, I'm good at music, I'm good at art, I'm good at sales and marketing, I'm good at advertising, I'm good at finance, I'm good at HR, great. But does it link to an inspiring cause also? What do I mean by an inspiring cause? I mean, whom are you helping? Are you really helping someone? What impact are you making? What careers and jobs are in line with that path? Let me tell you a very simple exercise to understand what I mean by inspiring cause. On the left hand side, and maybe you can take a pen and a paper quickly if you want to work out on this exercise. It will take a minute. On the left hand side, write down all the ideal professions you have thought about from your childhood. In your school, in your college, what did you want to become? What do you want to become secretly even now? Write all of them out. Be creative. No matter how ridiculous they seem, write down all the professions. Sky's the limit here. And don't write more than maybe 4 or 5. 2, 3 is ideal. Lesser the confusion, better it is. On the right hand side, write down your core values. These are the things you stand for. What do you love? It could be anything, starting from equality, honesty, integrity. It could be even the kind of hobbies that you have had, which are linked to your values. Now, in this simple, I asked a very dear friend and she came up with these answers for herself. She said I think her ideal profession is business or dance or craft or writing or even planning or advertising and branding. Very different from each other. But if you looked at her values, she spoke about equality, she spoke about happiness, she spoke about freedom, empathy, creativity, trust. If you made these 2 columns for yourself, now if you try to link these 2 columns, you will be able to answer step number 3. Is there an inspiring cause? If you look at her, creativity kind of sinks in with dance, with craft, with advertising and branding, with writing, slightly indirectly with event planning and business, but yes, there is a big link. And of course, the rest of her values also kind of links to her professions, but it seems creativity is her biggest value in which she wants to make a career out of. Similarly, you will have a value which you will see is helping you make a career out of. Eventually, your career has to be linked to who you are at the core of yourself, which are your values. If it is linked to that, nothing will be needed to motivate you daily because your values, your core is motivating you daily. And thus, very simple exercise, you can do it at your ease at home later. Step number 4. Identify the people who have already reached the pinnacle of the career you have chosen for yourself. So if it's business, it might be some of these guys that you see on the screen. Of course, you would be knowing most of them. If it's art, craft, look at them. If it's music, look at them. Identify these guys that have made it big in life in the same career that you want to make big in life. Once you have done that, now start spying them. You have seen detective serials, you've seen how great policemen spy their target. These guys are your target. And when I say spy, don't get me wrong. What you have to do is become very good at internet search. First, find out why do they have this profession? What are their qualifications, skills? What is their story? What are the struggles that they have gone through? What are their dark days? Read their autobiographies, read the articles they have written, go through the interviews they have given, read the questions, read the answers they would have answered on Quora. If they do personal branding, find out what kind of personal branding do they do, what are their values, how do they map it to their careers. Absolutely find out each and every detail about them. And if you really want to go a step further, I have done it for myself. Try to connect with them on LinkedIn or even email them. 1 out of 10 famous people actually reply to whatever you are asking them. And maybe the person you're trying to make your make your ideal is not even famous, and therefore your probability might be higher than 1 out of 10. Ask them, can I call you for 15 minutes, half an hour, because I want to know your story. I have some specific questions to ask you. Imagine you have a career dream, and then you find an ideal and you talk to that person, either on phone or on email or on LinkedIn, and ask them how did they make it. Also, what it will do is you will realize your struggle is much lesser than theirs. And therefore, you should not start cribbing about your life. You know that you are already privileged. Step number 4, therefore. Step number 5 is something called micro goals. Now that you know this is what you love, you have linked a career to something you love, then you have identified people and you have started absolutely spying them and knowing all details about them and getting inspired. Now start building the roadmap. What does a roadmap mean? A roadmap would mean that this is where I want to reach after 5 years, 10 years, 10 years. In order to reach there in 5 years, I need to start making micro goals. What do I mean by micro goals? Micro goals means, let's say I want to get an internship at Google. Now, in order to get that job or internship at Google, first you need to land an interview at Google. In order to land an interview at Google, first you need to understand what kind of qualifications and skills are required to land that interview. And therefore, in order to get those qualifications and skills, what kind of courses and sessions and study do I have to do in order to get that? So once you know your eventual 1 year, 2 year, 5 year goal, you start backtracking from there for your micro goals. And I was listening to this fantastic talk yesterday, which spoke about this theory of being micro ambitious. Micro ambitious means what I am doing today is the most important thing that I have, which needs to get completed. But that micro ambition has to be linked to the eventual goal that you have. You can be passionate about that eventual goal, but the most important part in that is to finish the job today, so that you reach that goal 2 years later, 5 years later, 20 years later. So micro goals means being micro ambitious. Whatever you're doing today, do it well. Last step number 6 is knowing that you are in a game of chess. Knowing that if you are playing, someone else is also playing along with you. That someone else is called life. And when that someone else is playing with you, they are going to throw challenges at you. They are going to throw roadblocks at you. And these challenges, if you're already aware, you'll be ready for them. If you make a career map and you don't know what challenges are going to come, then you will falter, feel disappointed, feel stressed, depressed each time a challenge comes. But if you're aware from before that this is the challenge that is going to come, when it comes, you will smile. So, very importantly, remember that you are going to face challenges and try and solve for them from beforehand itself. Along with that, you will have to make sure that your calendar is already set for reaching that goal. And a good number of things in that calendar, guys, needs to be in this quarter. It can't be that I want to become the Prime Minister of India and I will start next year. If you have to start, you have to start today. Leaving work on Friday for 2 days of mindless fun and returning Monday morning sleepy are someone on a very different path, guys. If you are one of them, change. If you're really serious about your career roadmap, then you're supposed to make sure that you're using each minute, each second of your life. So these are the basic steps, guys, of course. And these are the steps that you need to be checking in order to make sure that your career roadmap is in the right direction. Which is section number 1, guys. If there are any questions till now on the 6 steps, before I go to the second section, Vipin, if you can help here.
Yes. So just before we start, so Vipin has a question. regarding how does one anticipate the challenges beforehand? How does one create space for them because they're uncertain? Yeah.
Fantastic question, Riddhi. Welcome to the session again. Good to see you. Riddhi, at a very young age, I had a manager who told me that the only thing that a good leader does is anticipate the problems that are going to come in future. Everything else is anyway in front of your eyes. Anticipating problems is like taking a life insurance. You are not sure whether it will come or not, whether problems will happen or not, but you're insuring yourself against it. You can also anticipate problems, Riddhi, by talking to your mentors, to your ideals, that this is because they have achieved that particular thing in their lives. It helps them tell you that these are the 10 challenges I faced in my life. And then maybe you can be more prepared that maybe I'll also face similar, if not the same. Obviously, anticipating challenges can also be regarding your financials, regarding your health, regarding the plan that you have made, and therefore what could possibly go wrong. It's like playing the devil's advocate on your own plan. Ask some of the people who don't like you, maybe they will also help by telling you nahi nahi ye nahi chal sakta, and therefore tell you the challenges. Just hear the challenges and forget about ye nahi chal sakta, and make sure that they don't come. Hope I've answered that.
Thank you.
Himanshu has a comment. It's a comment come question. So he says, what if he's happy with the position that he's in, and he also knows where he wants to go, knows the path to. But what if he's not able to motivate himself to do the labor, to do the grind work daily for it? How does one motivate oneself?
Yeah, so good question, Himanshu. I think if the dream doesn't motivate you by itself, then it's not a dream worth pursuing anyway. If it's a career that is not motivating you by itself, then maybe the career is not linked to your core values. Maybe it's not linked to who you are originally. If you remember step number 2, very important question you need to ask yourself, who are you? And if it really, really motivates you, then you don't have to wait for an external motivation to come in. It's all internal. Your career roadmap is yours, guys. You will have to own it. No one else will own it for you. And owning it has to be natural. Becomes natural when it is linked to your core values. If you remember Ikigai, what do you love is the first circle in Ikigai. And therefore, there is no other answer than linking it as much as possible to who you are. You have to be absolutely madly in love with that thing for you to chase it day in, day out.
Yeah. So Kunal and Shubha, they have a similar question. How does one become certain that this is the path that one wants? Because the mind keeps changing from one goal to other. When do we know that this is it?
There is no right or wrong answer to it, Kunal and Shubha. Thank you for asking. This is it is something that your conscience should be able to come back to you. And therefore, I'm saying there is no right or wrong answer. If it is fleeting, then most probably this is not it. Rather than getting confused, link it to who you really are. I keep coming back to this because keep asking yourself, what I am chasing, is it something actually very, very close to what I really believe in? Post that, if you have set your goals, then you will have to almost become absolutely what do you call like someone who worships something. If you see people who are absolutely worshipping either a god or a father figure or an inspiration, they become they go in a different zone. And most successful people you will see are in a zone of themselves. So confusion means you're not there yet. Just like most things in life, I think we've been to answer this question also. If you are in love, you realize, right, कि मुझे प्यार हो गया है. You don't keep getting confused that इसी से प्यार हुआ है या थोड़ा और ढूंढूं.
Yeah, I think another way to answer that question is, if the question is still popping up in your head that whether this is it, maybe it is not it.
Yeah, that's what. Correct. I'll move on, Vipin, and
Yeah.
maybe at the end of the second section now, take the next set of questions. I'll keep giving you time, guys, to ask questions at the end of every section. One is done, two more. Okay, interesting one. 3 basic slides and pillars on what do you do when joining, what do you do when quitting, and what kind of manager should you chase in your life. First one, factors to consider while joining a job. Many of you would have started your first job or even in their second, third, fourth, fifth jobs by now. You can actually check, did you consider these factors when you joined your jobs? First, is the job role that you have important to the business? And is the business you are joining critical to the organization? Two things I'm saying, I will repeat. Is the job role that you are going to take important to the business that you are joining? And is the business you are joining important to the organization? I'll take my example. When I joined Kardeko, is the organization that I work in currently. The role that I had was to lead a particular business which was in the used car space. So the role was leading the business. That business being a part of the used car space was critical for the organization because that's what the focus of the organization was. At least this was what I thought when I joined, and it turned out to be largely correct. All of you also have to answer this question when you are joining. Is the role important? And is my business critical for the organization? If these two questions are yes, then even in tough times, you remain relevant. Second, is the financial health of the company and the brand value of the organization strong? What do I mean by financial health? Financial health is the overall P&L of the organization. Very easy, go online, find out the annual report of the organization and see whether the organization is profitable. If the organization is profitable, yes, then great. If no, look at the overall valuation of the organization. Is it moving in the right direction? What are some of the industry experts speaking about the organization? Brand value is, of course, overall brand value. More people know the company, the better it is. Two different things. Financial health is comparatively a little more important than the brand value, but very important you check these things before joining. If you're joining a perennially loss-making company, even if the CEO has told you that you're going to do great and you're going to change the world, think again. Third, look at the work-life balance and the culture of the organization. Various ways of doing it. There is Glassdoor, there is Quora. You can ask people within the same organization about the culture. You can ask people who have left that organization in the past. Find them out on LinkedIn if they are not your friends and ask about the culture. Very important to look at the work-life balance also. There might be a new job that pays you more, gives you a better designation, but absolutely spoils your work-life balance for good. Maybe you'll not come back home 5 days in a week. Maybe you'll come back so late that you have zero time to spend with your family. Is it worth it? Is it the life that you would want for yourself? If yes, then please go ahead. But you should be aware. Work-life balance is an answer that you should be aware about. This may not be the be-all, end-all, but you should be aware about it. Point number 4, I think you definitely check, and therefore I would not get too much into it. If someone doesn't check, please do. The salary, perquisites, designation, and benefits. Last point, who is your boss going to be? Guys, your boss is going to be more important than the organization you join. And therefore, firstly, if your boss has already interviewed you, I hope you have already checked his LinkedIn profile. You already know what kind of activities he does. Is he very active? Otherwise, also other than office, what are the kind of recommendations he's got from his fellow team members? Try and talk to people who have been in his team before, if that's possible. Because this is going to be the single biggest criteria for job satisfaction going forward. You might be knowing everything about the organization and you have a fantastically bad boss, your life is over. And your current team members. If you get time to do that, what are the kind of people whom you are going to spend your 8 to 12 hours a day on a daily basis from now onwards? Because these people are going to become almost family in the future. 5 basic things. Obviously, there are hundreds that you can read about. These are the 5 I thought are the most critical that you have to consider while joining a job. The flip side of it is factors to consider while quitting a job. The situation is pretty opposite these days, and you don't really have to quit. Organizations will only ask you to leave. But in a normal situation, there are a lot of times when you consider quitting a job. What are the things that you need to consider while quitting one? First, what specifically about my current situation is frustrating me? A lot of times when we are frustrated, unhappy about our jobs, we are not able to put a finger on one thing. What is that one thing that's frustrating me? Is my boss? Is it the work culture? Is it my client? Is it that one random abusing client? Is it my colleagues? Is it the unfair practices by the organization where someone else is promoted or incremented and I am not? Is it the product which is terrible? Is it because they're not innovative enough to match the requirements of the world? So what specifically about my current situation is frustrating me? First question. Second is, ask yourself if the source of your happiness is temporary or permanent in nature. जिस भी चीज से आप दुखी हो अपने नौकरी में, पता लगाइए वो टेम्पररी है या परमानेंट है. Because if it's temporary, then maybe you can just wait it out. If you are in, let's say, a fantastic organization doing well for your company and you are slated for growth, you know that you have a great future, but you don't like the location that you're working in right now. You have already spoken to your boss and he told you that he's going to transfer you to the location you want. Then maybe wait it out. It could be about the culture, it could be about anything. Also, if it's permanent, you're sure it's permanent. If you're selling, for example, fax machines, then definitely you're going to be out of job soon. The organizations might shut down. Given the digital world, and fax machines might become obsolete. So therefore, it might be a good idea to quit. So ask yourself if the source of your happiness is temporary or permanent. Can you do something about it? Have you spoken to anyone or everyone about it? By anyone, I mean the relevant people, your manager or your skip manager. And is there a solution coming out of it? Third point, please remember ultimately what do you want for your job, career and life? A lot of times we want to change our job because that one thing that I'm unhappy about is fine at the new job. But that is not the reason why you should change your job. The reason why you should change your job is the new one fits my job, career and life aspirations. And therefore, a very famous question that good people ask themselves when quitting a job is, will I quit my future job to take the current job if given a choice? And by chance, if the answer is yes, then please don't go ahead in quitting the current job. So question number 3, what do I want for my job, career and life? Then is the new job making sure that I'm getting all of that? Question number 4, what are the aspects of your current job that you like, but you don't want to give it up elsewhere? जब हम दुखी होते हैं हमें ये याद नहीं रहता है कि करंट जॉब में क्या चीजें अच्छी है. What are the things in our current job that we absolutely love? Make sure that you at least have those things in your future job also. Otherwise, you'll start missing those things when you go there. You won't realize it at the time of quitting. You would just want to go, and also for the first 6 months keep telling yourself that अच्छा किया अरे यहाँ पे तो ये है, वहाँ पे वो नहीं था. But after 6 months, 1 year, it will start hitting you. Lastly, again 5, great way of doing it is write down the pros and cons of staying in your job. ये पहले के चारों पॉइंट्स हो जाएंगे अगर पांचवें पॉइंट में आपने pros and cons लिख लिया, and then you could have weighted yourself on is it the right decision to take. An average individual in the current world does 12 jobs on an average. You would have seen most of your parents or grandparents being in one job all their lives, but that's not the truth anymore. The fact is that if you are quitting and moving on at various stages of your life, you're doing better in your career. And that's the truth, however harsh it may sound. So therefore, you might have to quit. These factors might make it relevant on the kind of decision that you would want to take. Last part in this section is, which one kind of manager do you think is the most relevant for your kind of personality? I'm not getting into the bad managers because all of you know what a bad manager is if you have had one. I'm getting into the good types of managers. Guys, there are 4 types of managers who are good for you. First is a teacher manager. A teacher manager is someone who develops you with your expertise and experience. So this manager is helping you, coaching you constantly with their experience, their expertise. So whatever they teach you is a subset of what they know. So that's a teacher manager. A second is an always on manager. This one is always behind you, giving you feedback, constantly telling you कि ये तुमने अच्छा नहीं किया, ये तुमने अच्छा किया, micromanaging you, trying to micromanage you all the time. Although micromanagement, of course, is not a great term, but this also parallelly means sometimes that the manager cares for you and therefore is constantly trying to coach and give you feedback. The extreme of always on is micromanagement. Then there's a connector manager. This manager realizes I don't have all the skills myself, and therefore let me connect my team member to various other good people in the organization or outside the organization so that they get developed. This is a connector manager. These guys introduce the right people for their development needs, introduce the employees to the right people. Last type is a cheerleader manager. A cheerleader manager will not coach you, develop you, introduce you, but constantly they will motivate you. They will constantly cheer you up. They will tell you are doing a good job, clap for you. WhatsApp में जो सारे तालियां दिखते हैं, these are the kind of managers who will constantly keep doing that for you. Now the secret in all this is a good manager can be all 4. They can teach you, they can give you feedback, not constantly maybe, but sometimes. They can connect you to the right people that helps you grow, and they can constantly motivate you also. So if you have a good manager already, help yourself and that good manager to be all 4. आप उनके साथ बैठिए और बताइए कि बॉस आप शायद मुझे इन चीजों लोगों के साथ कनेक्ट कर दीजिए so that I also learn. I can always tell them, sir, what feedback do you have for me? I've had many people in my teams in the past who have come to me and asked for feedback. I have myself asked for feedback many times from my managers and my peers. So there is no harm. You can actually help yourself and your manager to be all 4, and therefore these are the kind of managers that are good. So this brings me to the end of section 2. Sorry. If there are any questions, Vipin, you can help.
Yes. So there are quite a few questions actually in this section. So Gaurav asks, so he's worked for a company where he's worked for 2-3 companies in the same industry, but does not like the way products get sold. It's a very pushy approach. So in that case, is changing the industry an only solution to his situation, or should he look for another company?
Good question. Thanks, Gaurav, for asking and also for joining the session. Very glad to see you after a long time. Gaurav, I think it is very important that you build your own world. So, of course, I know the kind of industry that you're talking about. Even in that industry, I know a lot of managers who have built their own teams according to partly at least their own rules. And therefore, it's their environment, their world in which their team works. It will be critical, Gaurav, therefore, to either start trying to build your own world if you are in love with the industry. Changing the industry is not a solution if you love this industry and don't like the others. But if you already hate this industry, then maybe you can change. But if you like it, then try and build your own rules, and who knows, maybe in a year's time, maybe in 5 years' time, your rules will be accepted as a norm in the industry. But don't expect the whole industry to change because you think it's not right. Try and build at least your own rules in your team while delivering the same results or better results, if you really believe in your values.
Yeah, Sakshi wants to know, and how does one know about the financial health? Because many of the companies that we will work for are startups, and not much financial information is available online. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Sakshi, this is actually very easy to be done, even if there is no annual report, if it's not a public company. There are various websites these days that talk to you about the approximate financial health of the organization. Also, senior leaders in that organization, uh, if you know them, great, talk to them, ask them about the financial health, or connect to people in the on LinkedIn, some senior leaders in the organization, and feel free to ask them that is the company financially stable and what is the kind of route forward. But financial information these days are very easy. Media, if not websites, media publishes them day in day out. At least the valuation of startups, for example, is something that you can look up to or look forward
Yeah, we have two, three more. So Avish has an interesting one. He says when he joined an organization, the bosses and the values of the organization were perfect, but after some time, the management changed, and he does not feel comfortable under the new leadership. Although the values of the company haven't changed, what should he do?
to. Good question, Avish, and very realistic question, because this keeps happening all the time. So if I take you back to this slide, I think where I spoke about while joining a job, if you see, I wrote the work-life balance as point number 3 and financial health and brand value as point number 2, which basically means if the organization has a mission or a vision that you're able to connect to, then your manager should become irrelevant. If the organization themselves have changed the mission and vision, then it kind of doesn't help. But if they have not changed it, then your manager is important, but not as important to start bringing in job dissatisfaction. Secondly, it will be important, Avish, that you are answering the question yourself, that is it the right place for me in terms of who are you. If that question is not answered, then you will keep feeling these dissonances all across. Vipin, I'll have to move on to the third section and we'll take the questions at the end.
Sure.
Okay, so guys, to the last section, which is on the theories, about 20 minutes here. The first theory that I want to take you through is the hierarchy pyramid at work. All of you have learned about the Maslow's hierarchy. Just put a quick yes on the chat box if you know about the Maslow's hierarchy theory, Maslow's need hierarchy. A quick yes on the chat box. Vipin, am I getting
Yes.
response?
Yeah. You have, most people
Great.
are aware.
Yeah, so this theory, guys, is the similar hierarchy at work. But the interesting part in this theory is there are just 3 stages, number 1, not 5. And 70% people, all their life, stay in the first level. They just don't move up. 27% people reach the second level. And just 3% people reach the last level. And I'll tell you what they are. The first stage, 70% people stay in the achievement stage. मुझे ये achieve करना है. I want to do my sales targets. I want to achieve appreciation. I want to do bigger businesses for my organization. I want to get promoted, and therefore I want to achieve a promotion. I want to get great increments for myself. I want to make sure that my team achieves great targets and keeps moving forward. I want to be the number 1. In a country like India, achievement is something that is taught to kids. First आना है स्कूल में, कुछ भी हो जाए सेकंड नहीं आ सकते. आई हैव नोन पेरेंट्स जो दुखी होते हैं अगर उनका बच्चा थर्ड आ जाता है तो. So therefore, achievement is very integral to us. It's like the hungry beast that's constantly behind us. Successful people, in fact, have a great drive for achievement. Also, the truth is, if you don't have a drive for achievement, you will anyway not move up the ladder for the other 2 stages. So that's one. 70% people stuck their achievement. I want to do this in life. Second stage, only 27% reach, is the stage of mastery. Now in this stage, because you have overcome achievement, by overcoming I don't mean you have ignored achievement. Like that you will not rise. By overcoming I mean you have achieved so much that achievement is not so important for you anymore. It's become natural to you. You reach a mastery stage. A mastery stage is a stage where you are able to Try and master some concepts and become indisputably the best person there without worrying too much about what the world thinks about it. This stage, you start coaching people, you start training people. In this stage, you don't tell your team members, मैं तुझसे ये काम better कर सकता हूँ. In this stage, you try and help everyone around you. In this stage, you actually give benefit to people parallel to you. You actually benefit people above you because you have become a master at something and know that something better than anyone around you. So this is a slightly elevated stage, the stage of mastery, where you become the coach without being a teacher, without being in the teaching profession, I mean. The last stage, guys, where very, very few people reach, and actually is the stage where most CEOs of organization are, is the purpose stage. At this stage, people talk about the why, the mission. If you remember the golden circle, if you attend, some of you attended my first session of Cracked on the golden circle of the mission, of the why. These people are talking about the purpose all the time. Mahatma Gandhi did not talk about achievement, did not talk about mastery. He spoke about making the country independent, purpose. Give me blood and I will give you freedom. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, purpose. Great CEOs will say, we want to become the biggest organization of the world which helps in saving lives, let's say, for a medical organization, purpose. We want to change the status quo. We want to challenge the status quo, that Apple says, purpose. When you reach a purpose stage, everything else becomes automatic because you're talking about the mission. Now the interesting bit, guys, if you have observed all the three stages and you have asked yourself, मैं किस stage में हूँ, you will get an answer. Number one, कि मैं achievement stage में हूँ, मुझे achieve करना है, लोगों को दिखाना है, खुद को दिखाना है, या फिर मैं mastery में हूँ. I've reached a stage जहाँ पे मैं लोगों को सिखाता हूँ, समझाता हूँ, मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ता कोई और मुझसे better कर जाए क्योंकि मुझे पता है मैं ठीक रास्ते में हूँ. Or you have reached the purpose stage where you have started talking about why this job, why this organization, why a personal brand. If you have understood this, many of you would be thinking मैं achievement से mastery phase में जाऊं कैसे, क्योंकि I'm stuck, मुझे हर बार achieve करना ही होता है. वैसे ही तो मैंने JEE में अच्छा रैंक लाया हूं, वैसे ही तो मैं CAT में अच्छा रैंक आया है, वैसे ही तो मैं जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में अच्छा करता हूं, मैं mastery phase में जाऊं कैसे? Simple answer to this is how great people have done it. Have a hobby. And that's why the power of hobby becomes important. Why a hobby is important, guys, is that a hobby, if done every day, kills your achievement hunger. And therefore, you don't go to work feeling equally hungry to achieve something. For example, if you love running, and if you run 5 kilometers in the morning, you will go to work much more content and calm. And therefore, tell everyone else कि इधर आओ मैं तुम्हें सिखाता हूँ, rather than इधर आओ मैं तुम्हें बताता हूँ करते कैसे इससे बेहतर जो तुमने किया है. Because your achievement hunger has not died yet. Giving you just as an example, great people have been known to have hobbies which kills the achievement hunger on a daily basis. Angelina Jolie has a hobby of collecting daggers. The great that Brad Pitt could move on, but collecting daggers was her favorite hobby, which helped her kill her achievement hunger. Tom Hanks, you might be knowing this guy, has a hobby of collecting typewriters. Mr. Johnny Depp, one of my favorite actors, has a hobby of Barbie dolls. Barbie dolls for one of the best actors in Hollywood. And the most, the greatest guy among all these, Mr. Einstein, had a hobby of playing violin. And repeatedly he said on air, in interviews, that violin helps him become a better scientist. Because pehle, when he used to do an experiment and not get a result out of it, he used to feel stressed. He used to feel disappointed. उसे लगता था मैंने इतना अच्छा experiment किया, result कैसे नहीं आया? But जब से उन्होंने violin बजाना शुरू किया, result नहीं आता था तो वो smile करते थे. कल फिर करेंगे, कोई बात नहीं. Because that hobby was helping him kill the achievement hunger on a daily basis, and therefore he was lot more calm and relaxed. If you see, great leaders are relaxed. peaceful. Most famous people are, other than a few exceptions. So this is the first theory, guys. The theory of the hierarchy pyramid, where you go through 3 stages और आपको consciously अगले stage में move करना है अपने life में, rather than being subconscious about it and thinking कि achievement ही करते रहना है. The second theory that I'll talk to you about is the revision theory. The revision theory famously says revision actually is anything, any change that meaningfully alters your day-to-day life. Basically इसका मतलब यह है कि अपने लाइफ को आप रिवाइज करते रहिए कि am I in the right direction. If you remember compass is something that is telling you in your life goal, are you in the right direction. The revision theory will help you do that. बड़ा simple सा theory है. 3 चीजें बताती है revision theory. The first thing that it says is when you want to follow your dreams, follow a career that you love, many people are going to tell you are not in the right direction. In fact, if you search for success criteria on the internet, even that will tell you that maybe you will fail. People who love you will tell you, "Arey yaar, risk क्यों ले रहा है? You're a great banker at the age of 40 and you tell them that मैं ना अभी म्यूजिक शुरू करने वाला हूँ और बैंकिंग छोड़ने वाला हूँ." बोलेगा, "अरे you are earning 50 lakhs a year maybe. What have you gone mad?" First thing in revision theory says ignore the odds. Ignore the odds mean that there will be odds against you when you start something. Ignore them. Don't worry about them. Otherwise, you'll not even start. The second part in the revision theory says embrace the fear. Now, embracing the fear is basically understanding and realizing that we have to live with the fear. In fact, fear is good. जब आप पहली बार स्टेज पे गए थे बचपन में या स्कूल में या कॉलेज में, डर लगा था ना, 5, 10, 100, 1000 जितने भी लोग थे सामने. But that fear was good. It means you're doing something different. जब आप नया कुछ ट्राई करते हो, थोड़ा सा डर लगता है, nervousness, fear. It's good. कोरोना टाइम्स में even our prime minister is telling us आत्मनिर्भर होना है, being self-dependent. It's embracing the fear, realizing that the fear is part of our lives and actually realizing जितनी बार हमें थोड़ा डर लगा है, इसका मतलब हम कुछ नया ट्राई कर रहे हैं, हम कुछ अलग कर रहे हैं और अच्छी बात है, शायद something will change. As the famous quote says, nothing changes if nothing changes. तो इसीलिए अपने डर को अपनाना सीखना जरूरी है. So the second part in revision theory says जितनी बार डर लगे खुश होइए. 3 Idiots में जैसे कहते हैं all is well. Embracing the fear. The third part and the last part in the revision theory is decide by doing and not by thinking. बहुत बार हम लाइफ में सोचते हैं मेरे पास 3 ऑप्शन है, मैं ये कर लूं, वो कर लूं, ये कर लूं, और हर बार हम कहते हैं नहीं यार, तीनों में से ये एक ही करके देखते, बाकी दोनों में तो या तो रिस्क है या टाइम लगेगा या बहुत देर हो चुकी है. Also, decide by doing and not by thinking means कि अगर आप करोगे नहीं और सिर्फ सोचोगे, आपको कभी नहीं पता लगने वाला एक्चुअली क्या होना था. I have a very close friend who has written a book, very famous book in the business world, of course, and tells me, भाई पता है, मुझे हमेशा से लगता था मुझे राइटर बनना है. मैंने सारा काम छोड़ के 2 साल ये बुक लिखा. बुक पब्लिश भी हुआ, थोड़े बहुत कॉपीज बिके भी, पर उस 2 साल बिताने के बाद मुझे पता लग गया कि मुझे लिखना कितना घटिया लगता है. I absolutely hate writing, yaar. 2 years I was actually torturing myself. And now that friend is a relatively well-known speaker in the industry. He realized by doing that maybe what he was dreaming about is not his dream job. Maybe he was just imagining it. Maybe he's good at it, but maybe he doesn't love it from the core of it, although he was thinking he loves it. आप करोगे तो आपको ये भी पता लगेगा आप कितने पानी में हो. एक्चुअली आप फेमस हो सकते हो कि नहीं, और करोगे तो ये भी पता लगेगा कि अगर फेमस होना था तो हो गए. So don't keep thinking about it. Decide by doing and not by thinking. So very simple revision theory, guys. Ignore the odds, embrace fear, and decide by doing, not by thinking. Moving on, some tips to success toward, this is the last few minutes of the session before I go on to the questions. These are some tips to success. First is take the experience, ditch the title. Very important. While being open to change. बहुत बार हम अपना टाइटल लेके बैठ जाते हैं कि मैं इस कंपनी में सीनियर मैनेजर हूँ, ओ भगवान बहुत बड़ा वो बन गया हूँ, या फिर मैं इस कंपनी में जनरल मैनेजर हूँ, डायरेक्टर हूँ, असिस्टेंट वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हूँ. देयर आर सम ऑफ माय वेरी वेरी यंग friends who become vice presidents at the age of 25, 26, and about 3-4 years later now are looking for a job. It's very important that you detach yourself from the title, but take the experience. आपका कंपनी में experience is the story, is what actually you have learned. Title is just something that you are carrying, is not going to be yours after a while. And all of this while being very very open to change. Change को open नहीं होगे तो especially these tough times you will struggle. Secondly is be a giver not a taker while making meaningful connections. Now theory research says that आप हर job में जहाँ रहते हो वहाँ से on an average 5 meaningful connections बनाते हो. What are meaningful connections? These are people you stay in touch with like a friend even after you quit your job. And research also says actually job mein these are the most important people for your life, because these are the people whom you will keep talking to. These are the people you will get back to if you are worried, if you are in a difficult situation. People who struggle are people who don't have meaningful connections. वो job में जाते robot की तरह काम करते हैं और वापस आ जाते हैं, वापस job में जाते robot की तरह काम करते हैं, वापस आ जाते हैं. ऐसे नहीं होता है success. Success होता है if you really behave like a human being, where you know people around you. And therefore be conscious कि मुझे meaningful connections बनाने, conversations करना है लोगों के साथ, उनके life को समझना है beyond their professional lives. And that will help you in tough times, because after maybe 10 years you will have 25-30 meaningful connections which can get you out of any hole that you are into currently. Very importantly, next point, don't be your resume while searching for a job. इसका ये मतलब है कि बहुत सारे लोगों का भी unfortunately have been laid off, and there are a lot of people who are reacting strongly against it, while organizations, some of them also don't have a choice. जैसे ही हम जॉब ढूंढने लगते हैं we just become our resume. ऐसा लगता है इंसान एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता है, बस रेज्यूमे एग्जिस्ट करता है. रेज्यूमे में 4-5 क्वालिफिकेशंस लिखे हैं, 2-4 जॉब्स के बारे में लिखा है. But we forget that when we become a resume, the future job that we are going to get will be mostly very similar to the last job, because दिखा हम वही रहे. The future sector we are going to get into will be very similar to the previous sector. So guys, very important, rather than being a resume, be a storyteller. Who is a storyteller? A storyteller resume एक tool की तरह use करता है, साथ में cover letter लगाता है, साथ में एक video रखता है अपने बारे में कि मैं कौन हूँ, मेरे क्या passions है, मुझे किस तरह का नौकरी अच्छा लगता है, आप मुझे लोगों तो क्या फायदा मिलेगा. A storyteller is someone who tells them कि मेरे ये achievements हुए कैसे, कौन से skill से linked है, मैं fail कहाँ हुआ और मैं क्या सीखा उस failure से. So don't be a resume, be a storyteller. And last is the power of delegation. The power of delegation means अगर आपको life में ऊपर बढ़ना है ना, तो बहुत सारा काम आपको delegate करना पड़ेगा, कोई option ही नहीं है. But sadly, delegation का मतलब companies में होता है giving your work to someone else. आप अपना काम किसी और को दे दो तो delegation कहलाता है. Actual delegation होता है giving work that is work for you, but play for that someone else. ऐसी चीज दो जो तुम्हारे लिए काम है बट उस इंसान के लिए खेल है. And that will keep helping you grow in life. My last slide about being mindful. Very important, guys, have a mentor in life. Be mindful of having a mentor. This mentor may not necessarily be your manager. This mentor has to be someone जो आपको बिना आपके बुरा लगते हुए हमेशा आपको सच बताए. इसका ये मतलब है they will tell the truth on your face without thinking कि आपको सही लगेगा या बुरा लगेगा. A mentor is someone who is constantly giving you honest feedback, who is constantly holding your hand and telling you this is the way that you should follow. Second part in being mindful is be mindful of the paradox of goals. Paradox of goals का ये मतलब है जब हम एक टारगेट बना लेते हैं, आंख बंद करके उसकी तरफ भागने लग जाते हैं. अच्छी बात है, भागना जरूरी है, बट आंख मत बंद करो. आंखें खुली रखो so that you know कि शायद कोई शॉर्टकट राइट से है, लेफ्ट से है, शायद कोई तुम्हें हेल्प करने की कोशिश कर रहा है पर तुम सुन ही नहीं रहे हो, तुम कह रहे हो अरे नहीं यार मुझे तो गोल की तरफ भागना है, शायद उस हेल्प से तुम गोल को बहुत पहले पहुंच जाओगे. So the paradox of goals says that don't get blinded. Please remember that you have to keep your eyes open while running towards your goal. There is something also called the upside of chaos, which says कि chaos हमें बहुत बार लगता है कि बुरा है, बहुत सारा confusion है, mess है तो गलत है. But also remember every chaos is an opportunity. जब chaos होता है तभी बहुत सारे opportunities खुलते हैं. Now is the best time to understand that. There is so much chaos around you, that also means बहुत सारे opportunities खुल रहे होंगे. Keep your eyes and ears open. And last is keep asking for feed forward. इसको feedback कहते हैं normally. I have changed the term to feed forward because absorb it and move forward. Don't absorb it and move back. Absorb करो, समझो सामने वाला मुझे क्यों help और कैसे help कर रहा है, and then move forward on that path. So guys, I would want to end the session by telling you that career satisfactions don't come from what you do. Actually, it actually comes from who you get to be while you're doing it. The beauty is who you get to be is the real you. If you remember all your past jobs or this job, तुम्हें कोई एक दो चीजें करने से ही सारा appreciation मिल रहा है. That thing that you're doing everywhere is similar, although the jobs might be very different. और उसी के लिए तुम्हें appreciation मिल रहा है. That is the real you, who you get to be while you're doing it. Thank you. Hope I have been able to add value. This was the end of the session and the sections. I'm open to questions now. Vipin, if you can help me.
Yeah, so we have a lot of questions actually, Debjit. Maybe we can take a couple of them, and the remaining you can probably post it on the LinkedIn answers to those. Probably, I don't think we have enough time to answer all the questions right now.
Very
But
good,
yeah.
very good suggestion. Also, Vipin, if you can please copy paste and note down all the questions that have come before we log out, so that in the link on LinkedIn I can tag the exact person while answering.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the first one is from Piyush. He says he's working in the FMCG industry and he loves his role and profile. However, the company that he keeps, I mean, the fellow staff or colleagues, he's not very happy with. He feels he's stuck in an illiterate world. Maybe I think he's talking about the people he has to do business with. How does he overcome such a thought? Because it brings hurdles in his path.
Piyush, thanks for asking. Again, thank you for joining all the sessions till now. Piyush, if you're in the wrong job, nothing can help you. So first question I'm urging all of you to ask yourself is, am I in the right job? Of course, if the answer is no, don't quit right away. Think about it properly before quitting. But if you're in the wrong job, then mostly nothing will help. If you're in the right job, you think, then you will yourself find answers of how do I deal with illiterates. I'll give you an example. I have actually many friends who have started their own startups. When you start your own startup, you have to actually deal with illiterates is a much better word, absolutely no one's, and constantly deal with them. But because they're driven by their passion, because they're driven by a purpose, it doesn't matter to them. They're 20 hours a day dealing with these random idiots in a way, but are very, 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 very passionate about it. So find out if you're in the right place. If you're in the right place, you won't even ask these questions.
Yeah, thanks. This is the last one, and this is by Bhumika. She says choosing a manager isn't in our hands, and so what if the manager that we are assigned to, he's not bad per se, but he somehow does not exhibit the traits that we spoke about. He does not act like a teacher, does not care about us. Then what do we do in such a case?
So choosing a manager, Bhumika, is in your hands till you join the organization. So of course, if you research about the organization, about the manager, and you find that he's not worth it, don't join the company. The company will become irrelevant after a point if the manager is bad. But of course, if you have joined it and then the manager changes, then you can't do much about it. You will have to find ways and means to develop strike a connect, and then work cohesively with that person as per a certain style. So you'll have to reach a mid path. You can't push your working style to that manager completely, while it will not be fair that you accept their working style also completely. Try and reach a mid path and be communicative with that manager. A lot of times when you don't like our manager, we stop talking to that person. Be communicative. Keep asking if questions. Keep giving feedback, asking for feedback, telling them, develop mutual respect. All of that helps once you have landed with a bad one. But if you have the choice of landing with a good one, please take that choice.
Yeah, thank you, Devojit. I don't think we have time for other questions, so apologies to others whose questions would not be taken. Please watch out for a space on LinkedIn. We have noted down all the questions, and Devojit will revert to each of these questions.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for joining the call. Wonderful seeing all of you for a very, very important session again. Hope to see you next Saturday, 12 o'clock. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Great session. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.